Piccolo might seem scary, but deep down, he's pretty chill. Something that's especially clear in Dragon Ball Super, where the character's been frequently seen babysitting Gohan's daughter, Pan. But he wasn't always a good guy. Any Dragon Ball fan knows that Piccolo actually started out as a villain. But even then, there was a glimmer of a hero in the making, which is why we're looking at all the moments that prove Piccolo's actually a great guy. Left the battle. Let's start with the first time we saw signs of Piccolo changing his wicked ways and becoming a good guy. At the end of his fight with Goku, all the way back in Dragon Ball, Piccolo left the battlefield without killing Goku or his friends. Of course, the reason for this was so he could train to get stronger and come back to defeat Goku someday, but still, it's worth a few good guy points, especially with some added context. You see, Goku and Piccolo fought a fierce battle, and even when it seemed like Goku was on his last legs, he came back with one final attack that knocked Piccolo out cold. With his defeat, Kami urged Goku to finish the job so that the terror of Piccolo could never endanger the world again. However, Goku spared Piccolo, giving him a Senzu Bean in order to keep him alive, and to keep a rival around to motivate his training. Piccolo shows complete contempt for this act, but he still spares Goku and his friends, proving that he was at least a bit grateful. Piccolo would eventually return later on, but it appeared that this act of kindness from his enemy marked a change in him, the spark that would turn him into a full-fledged hero, a transition that started with sparing the world of his wrath. Teamed up with Goku. After disappearing for 5 years or so, Piccolo made his return in the first episode of Dragon Ball Z. But instead of trying to kill Goku, he actually ended up teaming up with him to take on Goku's brother Raditz. Piccolo agreed to team up with Goku, knowing that Raditz's power was too much for either of them to combat on their own. So he proposed a temporary alliance with his former enemy, in order to take care of the bigger threat to this world. Though his reasons were less than heroic, because he couldn't let someone claim the Earth before him, Piccolo's willingness to fight alongside Goku was another sign that his alignment was changing, with the events that followed the fight solidifying his status as a hero in the making. Piccolo might have been able to fool everyone into thinking this team-up was just so he could defeat Raditz, claim the world for his own, and defeat Goku himself, but we all know that it was one of the first signs he was growing to be a much better person, or Namekian. This shift was marked by the fact that Goku and Raditz didn't go to Purgatory, since Kami explained that all those killed by King Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. by extension can't pass on. But since Goku and Raditz were transported to Otherworld, it showed that the evil in Piccolo's heart was fading. Trained Gohan. With Goku dead and 2 more Saiyans on the way, both of whom were stronger than Raditz, the world had been left somewhat defenseless. However, Gohan showed massive potential during the battle against Raditz, and with his power, Earth might just stand a chance. Piccolo saw this potential in Gohan and decided to train him while the Saiyans were traveling to Earth. Piccolo's training was rather harsh and intense, as he left Gohan to fend for himself for the first 6 months. But the fact that he was willing to train the son of his enemy in order to protect the Earth showed some great character growth for a grumpy villain. Further character growth could be seen in small moments between him and Gohan, like when he gave him food for the first night, or when he clothed Gohan and gave him a sword to hunt with. Piccolo also destroyed the moon and cut off Gohan's tail to prevent further Great Ape transformations. But the most heartwarming moment during Gohan's training was when the 2 characters gathered around a fire. During this time, Gohan talked about how nice he thought Piccolo was, a moment that very clearly warmed Piccolo's heart, even if he didn't want to admit it. It became clear later on that those months spent training together meant a lot to Piccolo, showing that he was a big softie deep down. Sacrificed himself for Gohan. As we just discussed, Piccolo's time with Gohan changed him. He went from wanting to take over the world to wanting to save it, and during the process, the evil in his heart began to disappear. The true mark of Piccolo's transition from villain to hero came just after the Saiyans arrived. After the Cybermen had been dealt with, Nappa began to attack the warriors of Earth, eventually going after Gohan with a massive energy attack. However, before the attack could hit the young half-Saiyan, Piccolo appeared in front of him to take the full brunt of it, sacrificing himself for Gohan. This scene was important for many reasons. For one thing, it showed how close the 2 had gotten in their time together, and how important this time was. Second, Piccolo stood in front of Gohan either because he cared for him or because he saw him as the world's last hope, or maybe even both, sacrificing himself and giving up on his dreams of taking over the world in order to give Earth a fighting chance. The hardest proof that showed Piccolo had changed came in his final moments. With his dying breath, breath, Piccolo revealed that he had sacrificed himself because Gohan was the first person who didn't treat him like a monster, treating him like a friend instead. An admission that was delivered with sincere tears in his eyes. Fought Frieza. Piccolo's journey after sacrificing himself for Gohan is rather interesting. He went to Otherworld to train with King Kai. He was wished back to life, and he was teleported to Namek during the Frieza saga. While on Namek, Piccolo committed two major heroic acts. The first was that he fused with Nail, which might not seem like a heroic act, but considering he used Nail's strength to help others, his fellow Namekian's strength didn't go to waste. Additionally, allowing Nail to live on in some form is worth some points. With this newfound strength, Piccolo performed his second heroic act of the Frieza saga, fighting off Frieza. Although he could only handle the villain's second form, Piccolo's new power was rather impressive. And the fact that he took on Frieza for the sake of protecting Gohan and planet Namek showed that the character had grown to care about more than just himself. The resulting clash could easily be considered Piccolo's first fight as a good guy. And if so, then the battle is easily one of the character's kindest acts, since he was out to protect someone rather than destroy them. Additionally, the fact that Piccolo was ready to fight a villain known for taking over planets shows he clearly had a change of heart from his earlier days of wanting to take over the Earth. Fought Android 17. By the time the Android and Cell sagas rolled around, Piccolo was a full-fledged hero, ready and willing to fight for the Earth. A major sign that Piccolo thought of himself as a warrior of Earth came when Bulma offered everyone armor similar to Vegeta's, which he turned down because he didn't want to dress like someone as evil as him. It was a little hypocritical, sure, but at the very least it showed he had moved on from his old ways. During the Android and Cell sagas, there was one battle that demonstrated just how far Piccolo was willing to go to protect the Earth and defeat the evil androids that were threatening it. This battle was Piccolo's fight with Android 17, which was one of the most intense, evenly matched brawls in the history of the franchise. Piccolo initiated this fight for one reason and one reason alone: to defeat the androids and prevent them from being absorbed by Cell. Piccolo knew that Cell would only get more powerful if he obtained his perfect form, so he took a stand and used the power he gained from fusing with Kami to try and protect the Earth. The effort Piccolo put into this fight is why we consider it one of the character's most heroic moments, since it was made very clear that he was not giving up. Teaching fusion and stalling Buu. By the time of the Buu saga, there was no doubting that Piccolo had become a full-fledged good guy. Proof of this coming from the fact that he played a part in attempting to stop Buu's reign of terror. The major contribution that Piccolo had in protecting the Earth from Buu was teaching fusion to Goten and Trunks. Goku first taught the fusion dance to Piccolo and the kids, but since his time on Earth was limited, Piccolo took over training them. With their power, fusion was the Earth's best chance at surviving, which is why Piccolo put his all into training the two, which included performing the dance's ridiculous pose with Krillin in order to demonstrate how the technique worked. This wasn't the only thing that Piccolo did to combat Buu, though. He also managed to stall the villain when he showed up to fight Gotenks. Since the boys were still training in the hyperbolic time chamber, they needed time to fully master the fusion and the power that came with it. So Piccolo stalled Super Buu by taking him through the long route to the hyperbolic time chamber, ensuring that Goten and Trunks had at least a bit more time to train for the upcoming fight. In doing this, Piccolo gave Gotenks a fighting chance, although it still wasn't enough to defeat the villain, as Gohan, Vegito, and Goku had to step in later on. A second sacrifice. Fast forward to Dragon Ball Super, and history seems to have repeated itself in the Golden Frieza saga, which adapted the plot of Resurrection F. We're obviously referring to Piccolo's second sacrifice for Gohan, which mirrored his original sacrifice in the Saiyan saga. After Gohan defeated Captain Ginyu, Frieza fired a death beam at the Half Saiyan. The attack left Gohan stunned and stumbling, allowing Frieza to fire several more blasts that put him on the verge of death. When Frieza was ready to strike the final blow, Gohan braced for the attack, only to find that Piccolo had stepped in front of him to bear the brunt of the blast. As a result, Piccolo died protecting Gohan for a second time. The reason for this sacrifice needs no speculation. Piccolo clearly cares for Gohan, thinking of him as a son, and because of this, he'd do anything to protect him. Piccolo made the same sacrifice before, but that didn't make this act any less meaningful. In fact, it was perhaps more meaningful this time around, since the two had formed such a strong bond, and Piccolo's sacrifice showed that he'd die over and over again if it meant Gohan was safe. Oh man, now we're just getting all misty-eyed. Piccolo's just such a great dad. Babysitting Pan. For a guy whose original idea of babysitting was abandoning a child in the woods until he learns to survive, Piccolo is actually a really good babysitter. Both before and after the Golden Frieza saga, we got a glimpse of just how fine-tuned the Namekian's babysitting skills are. Before Frieza's resurrection, Piccolo originally seemed a bit standoffish to the idea of taking care of Pan, as seen when he was a bit embarrassed at the idea of being caught playing peekaboo with her. But as these super episodes continued to roll on, we saw that Piccolo not only liked babysitting Pan, he was also really good at it, to the point of being afraid of leaving her alone with Goku and Chi-Chi. Seriously, Goku had a long list of instructions about how to properly take care of Pan, showing that he had become an expert at it, which is probably why he became Gohan and Vidal's go-to babysitter. Plus, it's also easy to see that he cares just as much about Pan as he does Gohan, since he was furious when Goku lost track of her. Suffice it to say, Piccolo has become something of a Namekian nanny, but the fact that he likes taking care of Gohan's daughter shows just how much he's changed, because less than 20 years ago, he clearly didn't know how to take care of a child. Getting Gohan back in shape. Gohan and Piccolo's relationship started with training, which is why Piccolo getting Gohan back in shape was such a fitting way to bring him back into the life of a warrior. After the future Trunks saga of Dragon Ball Super, Gohan decided to take up his training once again, asking Piccolo to bring him back to his peak level. So, the two began training for the Tournament of Power. Compared to Gohan's original training with Piccolo, this training had a lot more significance. The main reason for this is that Piccolo helped Gohan to overcome his weakness, his inability to finish a fight. Piccolo concluded that this was because Gohan lacked the spirit of a true warrior, a problem present in the Cell games. This problem was also present when Gohan first unlocked his ultimate form. He was too arrogant to finish the job because he enjoyed fighting with his newfound power. Although it might have been harsh of Piccolo to point out these flaws, in the end, it was good for Gohan to learn what he needed to do in order to get stronger. Let's put it this way, Piccolo loves and respects Gohan enough to tell him the truth. And in hearing this truth, Gohan knew what he had to do to improve, showing that even in calling him out, Piccolo had Gohan's best interests at heart. So, what do you think? Were these some of Piccolo's most heroic moments? Did they show that he's not such a bad guy under his tough exterior? Is he a better dad than Goku? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more Dragon Ball content. Thanks for watching!